For today's session, my main aim is to really to give you the opportunity to ask any question you want, and also for me to give a brief introduction of what the diploma, the postgraduate diploma is about. And of course, if you ask me, all right, is it necessary to get a diploma to learn Sun Tzu's Art of War? I would say probably not. Ultimately, in life, it is your real skills that count. But I think we are in an age where everybody wants certification, that you've been through a course, the program, and so forth. Now, right, I emphasize again and again to a lot of people that Art of War in the past. In fact, you find in most Chinese traditional skills like TCM in the past, and strategy, whatever you name it, feng shui, right, collecting art and kung fu, a lot is on self-learning. And for this course, we will emphasize that part of it in online programs. Then we have the very rigorous assessments. That means we're going to assess you to make sure that you really know the stuff before we pass. And we have online conferences and a strategic thinking project. Future learn by adventuring inside China. Talking of China, I've been there for last 10 years. I've been traveling across China. And I've been across more than 20 universities as a visiting professor. Well, let me start the webinar. Right? Let me get it. Okay. Why self-learning? Why self-learning? Because strategy is about the future. The future will always change. So there's no such thing as getting a certificate and then you know everything. No. You've got to constantly be self-learning. Self-learning. So the emphasis really is, to this program, however, you will learn the art of strategy from a Chinese perspective. In reality, you always learn by yourself, honestly. Any skill that you do, right? Unless you do what do you call skills that are not related to competing. Right? In competition, you must win, and your level of learning will be a function of how good your competitors are. And what do I mean by self-learning in the case of strategic thinking? The whole idea is that you must transform what you have read by reflecting, that's thinking through how you should be acting on it, or the word used is applying, application. But really, right, in strategy, you act on strategy. You take decisions, you act on decisions. And of course, before you act on anything else, you would test your ideas by engaging in dialogue, testing your thinking. And that is a truer process of learning. You follow me so far? Right? It's not about, in the real world, there are no examinations for you to take, right? But really, your success is a function of what you do. And therefore, you owe it to yourself to master those skills that are necessary for our work. What Art of War is about? Art of War is not about making money. Art of War is really about the art of survival. And the world has changed, has transformed so much that I can tell you that for me, even I have to learn every day. I have to keep learning, to succeed. Now let's stick to the topic of Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu. Let's see how traditionally the Chinese learn Art of War. And the best really is to quote for me to cite much. Who is he? Perhaps those who are younger may not know of him, but during my time, right, he was known as the Japanese God of management. Right? And he actually believed strongly in Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu was the foundation of his strategy, Panasonic, the Art of War. In the promotion strategy, he emphasized that you must know Sun Tzu. There's no escaping from it. Now let's touch a little bit on the history of it. Right, one of the very fine places that I given a lecture to the MBA alumni was in Qatar, University of Science and Technology, China, where they actually got geniuses of China there. They gathered them there for training. And of course, I was there to talk about Sun Tzu. And this is the book that is going to be the book that you're going to use towards your third module. All right, the first module we are going to do, I was pretty clear. The first module, we'll start with the cards of Art of War. All right, reducing the concepts, the whole Art of War, 5,900 words, down to 156 concepts, and applying that in war scenario. That's the first module. Because Sun Tzu originates from wars. Right, now I'll show you this video, right? Now you see, the Chinese are very keen on Art of War. Imagine this lecture hall is completely filled with MBAs, post-MBA students listening to me talk about my research on Art of War, and they were very interested to know the modern application of Art of War. And that's where you benefit from this program. And university is China's top university. That's why I felt this urgency to convey that to Singaporeans, especially to Advantage. Advantage is a very fine school, a very good school in private education and management. Right? And I said that, look, the MBAs in top Chinese university are so keen to hear about Art of War, right? Then I think Singapore will opt to be having a program where you have an opportunity to learn about it. The whole idea really, right, is to embed the program, the whole program, the whole postgraduate, by the time you actually graduate from it, your mind will have to be embedded with Sun Tzu thinking. So every 100 billion neurons in the brain, right? If you reflect on Sun Tzu, you could know it inside you. Not like Kung Fu learning, you know. All the problem in teaching management is that we follow too much the Western model. Right? The Western model of strategic planning is not appropriate. Right? I will explain that later on. But the whole idea, therefore, is to embed your brain. And of course, someone said there's some part of the brain where actually there's consciousness. There's a linkage, but that's brain research. But the whole idea really is that Sun Tzu you become embedded with it. Because you spend so much time on it that you have a strong foundation on Sun Tzu thinking. And of course, it's Chinese strategic thinking. We will broaden that later on. But I think the core, the best of the best, is really Sun Tzu thinking. And of course, someone was telling me, Dr. Fu, you know, you're going to China to teach the Chinese on Sun Tzu? That is where Sun Tzu came from. I say, well, I'm just sharing what I've done in research. And I was very glad that I've been to cross universities in China, invitation. And they were telling me that selling Sun Tzu to the Chinese is like selling ice to the Eskimo. Eskimo got a lot of ice. Right? So, but then, you know, the whole idea, of course, is for me to tell it, even if you don't sign up for this postgraduate diploma course, because you need the degree in order to sign up for postgraduate diploma course, I actually have got the 2 self-learning packages that you can download from the Sun Tzu Institute. And you can learn through self-learning package, right, that you should do at step 1 if you're not a graduate. But then if you've done well in this part, the self-learning package, we'll have system to evaluate how well you have to master that through self-learning package. Then you can sign on for a postgraduate diploma. That's another alternative route I give you. Now this is really the face of Sun Tzu, and we've got a badge. Sun Tzu Institute is very low profile in Singapore because, you know, I mean, I'm a low profile guy. I don't like to be high. And Sun Tzu doesn't need publicity. I say again, it doesn't need publicity. Why? It has existed for 2,500 years. It simply is relevant whenever there's competition. And you know for a fact, you can't compete, you're out. So the idea really is that I created 2 self-learning package. Anybody can download it and learn on your own. It's for self-learning, so you don't need a degree. But you do well on those, and you said, look, Dr. Fu, I've learned all I need to learn on Sun Tzu self-learning package. Can I do a postgraduate diploma? We'll consider that. I will ask apprentices to give you special consideration. Right now. Now, what is this self-learning package about? It's really about a structured 13 days program for Sun Tzu Art of War. And it's actually bilingual version. And you get things that you cannot get from the outside. Right? I spent 2 years translating Sun Tzu from Chinese to English because the translations in the market are not, some of them are not accurate enough, not good enough. And of course, I use this as a structure, 13 days program, right? Because Sun Tzu wrote 13 scrolls. So 1 day for 1 scroll. It's very fast speed learning, right? But anyway, right? Unlike old days, young people nowadays need a structure to do anything, even dating. The government got to organize dating events and all that. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. So we provide a structure for you. And it's called Learning 13 Days program, and 1 day for 1 scroll. Now, let me be very clear. Right? Sun Tzu took 4 years, according to the Sun Tzu biography program that China came out with. 4 years to write 5,900 words. So 13 days is nothing for you to absorb and learn. Right now, how does it looks like the self-learning package? You get, first of all, started by getting interest in Art of War. And when you download that, we will download for you also the interview that I had with on BBC. And it's actually a global finance program. And the interview was, why Sun Tzu? Why do we need to learn Sun Tzu? And the British interviewer was very interesting. And he asked me, why do we need to? And of course, he made a remark that is very true. Perhaps all just common sense thinking. Indeed, a lot of people apply Sun Tzu without realizing they're using precepts from Art of War. Then, of course, but the self-learning package is bilingual. Postgraduate diploma is fully English-oriented without Chinese words. But for the self-learning package, it is bilingual. And I encourage you, if you do not know Chinese, that you pick up and brush up your Chinese. I am from Raffles, and I had to do that. I had to go to China to lecture. I had to really spend a lot of time learning and brush down my Mandarin. It's worth it. China is going to be #1 economy in the world. You're in a 20, by the time you reach 40, China will be all over the world. Now, then I downloaded for you also, you buy the package, how to use Art of War, an interview that I had with this Nang Sang Pao in this, Malaysia. So you just warm up, this is a warm up for you. Whatever sports you do, you need to do some warm up and get some ideas and all that. Now, of course, one thing which I must tell you is that I've taught in NTU. In NTU, I started the Mind of Sun Tzu course. Why did they ask me, or the dean of the school said that, look, your books is making a lot of impact globally. You should start a course on Mind of Sun Tzu in NTU. This is Mind of Sun Tzu course. The book that I wrote was Reminiscences of Ancient Strategies. Reminiscences of Ancient Strategies, Mind of Sun Tzu. I'll give you the story later on, but then basically, to sum it all, after teaching the course in NTU, Mind of Sun Tzu, it was very popular. We have for 50 places, there are 800 students applying, and I have a real problem selecting out 850 students for this general elective program. But then I realized in teaching this program that really skills in strategy may be inborn. In other words, there could be some relationship between your genes and your strategy. Not everybody can be, have that inclination for strategic thinking, right? So this is something I must emphasize. So if you happen not to be, after the program, you don't find yourself acclimatized to it, right? That may perhaps right, genetically, you may not be, but then it's always good to give yourself, have a go at it, to alter your genetic composition, right? All right, so genes and strategy, there's some relationship, I suspect. And of course, strategy is a skill. Now, watch this, right? It's the eagle, right? This sea eagle, right, going down, and then, the eagle is such a fantastic bird. Sun Tzu saw that, and then Sun Tzu quoted it. And Sun Tzu used that to emphasize on timing. So strategy is a skill, right? And I said S-K-I-L-L. Skill in the past was killing, how to kill. So skill, you break it up as skill, right? So through the program, I will emphasize those aspects of it that you have to master certain core principles. Right? If you go to my Facebook, you'll find that I got a song, and I uploaded my speaker's global speaking record for you to understand me. And then the song that I use in that video is my own composition. It's called Mastering Momentum. So, Sun Tzu also, the other thing to emphasize is mastering momentum. Now, I can tell you that Sun Tzu is very undertaught in universities. There are workshops all over the place, but they don't really go into the core principles of Sun Tzu. It's not complete. They just pick a point here, but the complete set of Sun Tzu, that makes it comprehensive, but it's not taught, because it takes much more time than just 2 days workshop. You need time to reflect, time to think through. It is a concept. The concepts are embedded there are 2,500 years old. 2,500 years old. Right? And yet, most remarkably, even the superpower of today, USA, Pentagon, emphasizes Sun Tzu. So strategy is a skill, but a skill that takes time to build up. And of course, one of the things I'm going to do, right, once we get this program going, but for the self-training, self-learning package, I try and recruit people who are good in Art of War, and possibly from the program itself, who will then be able to be coaches. You form what I call WhatsApp group, maybe a group of 100, maybe a group of 50, or a group of 20. And as you read and study the Sun Tzu Art of War, doubts come to you. You could then add to this coach, who then will use WhatsApp method to communicate with you on strategic thinking. Right. So this is part of the self-learning package, which because of the fact that I find it very, very necessary. If you're going to compete against the Chinese, I would say again, with the Chinese, you must be at their level. If you're not at their level, they will just look down on you and say, look, this guy is a waste of our time. He doesn't know strategy. So I believe that it's really necessary to be able, and of course, how do you interact with the Chinese on strategy? Words. What do you say? What do you talk? And therefore, if you want to, right, be seen in good light in your older years, when you work with the Chinese in the future, then you should be able to communicate in terms of strategy using Chinese framework of thinking. Now, of course, what I've done is I actually, expanded my research interest. And I got written a book called 8 Disciplines, Deep Strategy for Achieving Goals. And of course, this book is not really out yet. We're not promoting it yet, right? But I've studied, the military, and I've long interests. I've actually researched on submarine warfare, and so on and so forth. And I use that to create this book, 8 Disciplines. But you have to read the book to know what it's about achieving goals. And of course, I will share with you here, right, my research on F-22 Raptor. This is a plane, right? The US plane. I like this plane very much. And of course, I suggest that, you know, that you try and blend in understand our war military armament use as well. Now, let me try and see if I can show it here. But okay, no, it can't. I gotta go to the next one. Okay, I'll show it to you. F-22. How does F-22 metaphorically relate to management? Now, this is a key concept, metaphors. You see, Sun Tzu wrote in a time 2,500 years ago. The examples, the words he used, the expression he used relate to the context of warring state or Sun Tzu period in China. But then you are intelligent enough, you are creative, you can link those concepts and apply those concepts metaphorically. All right. So for example, I'm going to show you by looking at a real example, F-22. F-22 never existed 10 years, 20 years ago. Right? But then you can link that metaphorically. How does F-22 Raptor metaphor relate to management? I'll give you an example, right? It's F-22 in flight. Right? F-22 has one special skill ability. All right. What if your sails are F-22 like a Raptor? Then you can after the initial period, able to rise. This is we call F-22 Raptor performance in sales. Right? Okay, so I'm in metaphor now. So in Sun Tzu terms, very simple, right? Soldiers are workers. And the general maybe is the CEO, right? And then the king is the chairman of the company. Right? So in teaching this Sun Tzu and understand it fundamentally, my strategy is that you must understand every single part of Sun Tzu and yet be able to apply it. Now, okay, this is the core part, the core learning. 1 scroll a day, 13 scrolls. Worksheet for you to write down your own reflections. Now, what we'll find, of course, is that I also give pinyin sheets, special 25 minutes video that you can then run through it, and then you get this book. This book is not really available, not highly publicized, no. But it is actually, right, my translation of Sun Tzu from Chinese to English, and I believe it is perhaps the most accurate translation of Art of War. Why should you be good if your English add to learn Chinese version? Because you communicate with the Chinese. The Chinese will not learn English. Trust me. Not the whole of China, I mean. The Chinese still love their language. And in China, I have to speak Mandarin. And you will find the same too. If you want to really understand and work with the Chinese, you will have to know Mandarin and know it well. So after all this session, we will then organize a webinar, all right, for Sun Tzu. But in Singapore, I will do a conference. We will meet somewhere. And all those who have completed the self-learning package, we will meet and then we'll do a Q&A, a sort of dialogue on Art of War. Now I've, Sun Tzu 走遍中国, right? I've traveled across the whole of China. Urumqi, I was at this conference where I talk about Sun Tzu research. And Hakongta, I was a research professor. And in Haikou, I was up there teaching, right, at Hainan University on strategy. So this, right, is Sun Tzu across geographically. I was my choice to make sure that I cover different parts of China to really understand China. China is very big. Even now, I find that I had to really keep up with it. It was not simple to know China. It's a very big, huge country. And of course, this is the book I translated. It is available on Sun Tzu Institute. You can download it, but it comes as part of the package. And of course, my advice to those who have done MBA, myself, I did my MBA in the City University of London way back in 1981, 82. If you've got a USA MBA, then you should upgrade yourself to learning Sun Tzu, learning Chinese strategy management. Right? And I tell you, one of the reasons why China is rising so fast vis-a-vis the world is that they're very good in strategy. They're not strong on technology. They're not the US at the edge, but they're very strong in strategy. So if you've got a US MBA, I'll call that management by Americans. You should back that up by, management, the Chinese way of managing, and begin to understand it. And, just when I was coming here, right, to this online session, right, I saw WHO or the coronavirus, that the world should be learning from China how to manage the virus, the epidemic, the now called pandemic right now. So I got to give you a justification, right? Why do you need, if you've got MBA, to be learning Chinese management and starting with Sun Tzu Art of Wat, right? I was speaking at this RSM Global Conference, Beijing, China. I'll show you the key parts of it, right? And this is a mega event, right? It's a mega event. There are more than 300 over Europeans, and they were there listening to my lecture. I introduced Sun Tzu, right? Who Sun Tzu was. Right? And then I'll explain also why the Chinese are so sharp in strategy. And very, very importantly, I emphasize the fact that, some time ago when I was still in NTU, I wrote an article, right, in Bangkok Post, right, that was in the year 2001, August 9, and they published what I wrote. And I said, look, Michael Porter, fantastic strategist, right? He wrote the book Comparative Strategy, Techniques, and all that. But then his whole work, 600 or more, 500 or more pages, right, can be summarized in one chapter of Sun Tzu. Right? Just one chapter. And sadly, right, when Michael Porter decided to apply his best-selling books, ideas in his best-selling book, worldwide reputation, right, into practice, into application, you know what happened, right? The consulting firm, right, that he was involved with, right, went bankrupt. So if you had, American management, I would say that you should take a review, right, and think through, right. The company went bust and was acquired by Deloitte some time back. It's about time. As I said, in the year 2001, I was asked by the Thai, right? There was this question about whether Thai should spend $1 million inviting Michael Porter to give a lecture in Bangkok. And what I said was that, look, right, Michael Porter is good. I think he's a very good academic, no question about that. But he wrote books that sell, but those are based on statistical analysis, economics, and they're not really about real world of business. The real business is quite different. It's a different dynamic altogether. And his work could be summarized by Sun Tzu's one chapter ground. So I'm telling you honestly that if you have MBA in strategy, you should upgrade yourself by learning Sun Tzu. Okay, you need to upgrade, to update your MBA. Right? Upgrade, I would say, or update. Right now, okay, now back to a point of application for company. Now, the postgraduate diploma is emphasized will be on management, clearly on management. But you have a foundation understanding how Art of Wat evolved out of wars. Right now, what did Panasonic? Suppose you're working in Panasonic, Japanese company, Kanoki Matsushita, right? God of management, according to the Japanese. I mean, it's a very high title to be a god, a son, right? If you work in a Japanese company and you are section chief, they call it kacho, right? And you want to be promoted to buzang, right? Departmental chief, or to be a bucho, you must know Art of Wat. You must memorize it. There is a test. You stand there and you recite the entire 13 scroll translated into Japanese. If not, you won't get a promotion. So that's how intensively they learn about Sun Tzu. In China, I'm told by professors, and when I talk to and discuss with them, I don't have to I make a slip, they will tell me straight away, Sun Tzu是这么讲的, and they flow from the brain. Because the Chinese grow up memorizing Sun Tzu since young. Well, I've been there across for 10 years, 21 universities, visiting professor. And my last one was at Fudan University. So, right, so I realized that in China, really, Sun Tzu is immersed. The immersion in Sun Tzu is total and complete. Right. Then, of course, besides Art of War, I included another package for you, which is even more difficult to lecture and to teach. And therefore, isn't really part of the postgraduate diploma program, but it is part of a self-learning package. It's like what I mentioned. Right? If you learn Art of War, you're learning the external part of it. Right? Irene, this is the Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is like hidden. It is called the secret art of war. Sun Tzu. So you after you've done the first package, you will then do the 36 stratagems. For 36 stratagems, I actually developed method to test you. It's already with one lady I know, right? Dr. Nina. We're developing. We're not yet tested out yet, but right. So Sun Tzu is very important. It's based on this book, Thinking Around Stratagems. Now, honestly, frankly, I'm doing some business deals on my own. I realized that Sun Tzu is so powerful, especially you integrate it with Sun Tzu. Sometimes I feel that maybe we shouldn't teach too many people that. This way of thinking is so powerful, right? This was the book that I wrote with my brother, for Teck, because my style of writing is very complex. So I needed him to simplify things. Right? Sun Tzu is part of the package. And then I included a novel. I novelized it. This is my equivalent of Reminiscences of Ancient Strategies. Right now, let me explain why I wrote Mind of Sun Tzu. Why? Because I wanted to find out how did Sun Tzu get all his ideas from. To write the 36, to write the Art of War. That's why you should read Mind of Sun Tzu, the deepening part of the program. Now this is Cleopatra, and of course I created a novel, and this novel will explain, and I create a situation where grandfather teaches the daughter about Sun Tzu, and it's not available yet. It's not even in print yet, but we have it as part of the package. Right, and therefore, if you want a story, story background to understanding Sun Tzu, this is the book that I created. And as it says here, right, the Queen of Egypt, right, by weaving a modern-day story owing two siblings, Dr. Fu unfold the secret mechanism of the secret art of war, the 36 strategies of Imperial China. Right, overall program. Right now, if you have done the two self-learning packages, Art of War and Sun Tzu, and you do well in assessment, it's very important. The assessment you must do well. Then we will say, okay, you clear phase 1, right? Then you don't have to be a graduate. Then we will fast track you to do the diploma, the postgraduate diploma. And of course, postgraduate is of course got a very strong foundation. Besides Mind of Sun Tzu, it actually was part of a series of workshops called Complete Art of War, which was implemented by Singapore Institute of Management in 2014, I think, 2014 or 2004. And of course, the sharpening through mapping. This is the first part of it. So your first module will teach you how to sharpen your mind. Why? What do you mean sharpen? So that you know what strategy your competitor is using against you. Imagine you're competing in a future world, 10 years from now, with the Chinese, a strong competition. You can sense out what sort of strategy they're using from Art of War. You must sharpen your mind. Right? It cannot be so blurred, right? So that the strategy of the competitor overwhelms you, that would be sad. Then, of course, is the next phase is deepening, understanding the psychology of Sun Tzu, the mind of Sun Tzu. Now, this, when I conducted SIM, there was a chief minister attending the program. After the program, he said, "Look, Dr. Fu, I'd like you to come over and teach my political party about thinking of Sun Tzu." Now, what is deepening? What is deepening? You see, number one, you must realize one thing, right? Sun Tzu Art of War don't really tell you what strategy to use. This is a big mistake which Westerners make when they study Sun Tzu Art of War. This thing, Yeah, Sun Tzu says all of principles, yes. But for you able to come out with your original thing, Sun Tzu always emphasize that you must be original. You must never repeat your strategy. Right? 就是说你要新的一招 You've got to be able to come up with a new strategy. A strategy that will be based on analysis of the situation. So-called 趁机 You must see the situation and then formulate a strategy. Original strategy, unanticipated by the competitor. The moment they can anticipate what you're going to do, forget it. You won't win. But they can counter you. So deepening part is something which I tried. I developed more than 82 artwork for you to deepen your mind thinking. And I can show you the brochures from SIM. The participants said that this is one of the most unique course in the world. Right? And when the manager went back, the bosses say you have changed. You are a much deeper thinker now compared to before we attended the program. That's unfortunate. I left this to be a visiting professor in St. Andrews University when we were running this program, and we couldn't follow up with a bit more of it, right? But deepening is very important. It's understanding the mind. Very few people really, especially in today's modern age, everybody is externally driven. They forgot the idea, the aha comes from your brain. All right, and this is very, very important. Deepening and sharpening and deepening. So sharpening is originating new ideas, and that's not easy. Sharpening is to be able to sense what strategy has been using, which part of Art of War strategy has been applied, a mapping, so you know, right? I developed a tool for you, 156 mapping cards, for you therefore to look at a war situation and quickly. Now, fast strategy is very important, fast and sharp. Like Kung Fu, you got to be fast and sharp. You may be sharp, but you're not fast, it's no good. But if you're fast and not sharp, also no good. You have to be deadly accurate. Now then, the final part is mastering through leadership. This is where I will use the book that I'm used to actually go around China about research on Sun Tzu. You know what I did? Right? My PhD was actually on strategy in ASEAN region. And I was studying all the top ASEAN companies. So it relates very much to our region of the world. And then what I found, I surveyed the top companies, 400 companies, and I got the responses from them, analyzed those responses using rigorous statistical analysis. And what I found that what we found really, me and my professor Peter Grenier, right, was then the top academic in that field. And then when we try and summarize it all in the book, right, we found that we had to cite more than 500 articles and papers from the West. There's no one single book that can really, explain my findings from the ASEAN region. That was when I was told by my brother, Dr. Fu Chek Tong, right? He's Chinese educated. I wasn't, right? Yet much more grounding in Chinese. They say, look, but why do you look at Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? What you have written in the book is more or less found in Sun Tzu's Art of War. I was dumbfounded, couldn't believe it. I said, look, come on. How could somebody 2,500 years ago write a book that's relevant to today's context? right? That was when I started reading Sun Tzu, that was the moment of my transition, right, from Western management thinking to Eastern, to Chinese on strategy, expansion on strategy, right? And therefore, you find that in this book, the organizing strategy, I will relate my statistical finding, empirical finding to Sun Tzu. In other words, you have a very strong foundation, a strong grounding. The book was chosen by Blackrock in Oxford, right? So spring choice, and he had made a lot of impact in the UK. So you will study that book in detail. Every chapter you're going to cover, right? How Sun Tzu has been validated in management, of course. And then this is having done this three modules. We'll move on to the last one. And I think it's important that you have a project, a strategic thinking project. And I want to challenge you in this project on war for Singapore. That means if somebody fight and capture Singapore, what would you do? How would you, if I put you back to Singapore in the 1940s, how would you fight against the Japanese? This is a strategic thinking project, which I intend to implement as part of the program. Right? Why? Because Japanese soldiers, there are only 10,000 of them, but they were the best imperial Japanese forces. They attacked Singapore, they took Singapore, which was defended by 100,000 British troops, soldiers. Can't imagine that. You don't need to go anywhere in the world, you just use Singapore. And you see a classic case of Sun Tzu being applied by the Japanese against Singapore. Singapore was defended by the British. And what a fumble they made. It's 1 against 10 and they won. So the challenge for you is, how would you defend Singapore in those scenarios? What else you have done? What you do? And that, I think, will give you a deep understanding, a deep application, deep appreciation of Sun Tzu Art of War. Okay. Then, of course, optional, that we may plan to do in the future, learn by adventuring, all right? And that is Sun Tzu inside China. How is Sun Tzu being applied inside China? Right? This overall program. Phase 1, if you haven't got a degree, doesn't matter. Sign up for the 2 self-learning packages. Do well in the assessments, and we'll consider. Then number 2, if you have got a degree, right? I'll leave it to advantage to decide. All right, phase 2, then you would, and phase 3, then you get your diploma, postgrad diploma. Advantage School of Management with Sun Tzu Art of Wat Institute. So our is basically research oriented. Right? And then, of course, this is the self-learning 13 days program, Sun Tzu Art of Wat, the bilingual version. Right? And then this is the 36 stratagem. Right? And then this is the end of our webinar. Thank you for being present. Yeah. So, yeah, now we have this, sorry, my apology, this question and answer now. Do you have any question and answer you could ask me? Any questions from you, please? Yeah. Emily, you take over. Any question? Okay, got some question. Wait. Okay. Simultaneous to everyone. Okay, everyone, please mute your microphone. Okay, now I got this question from Emily. Dr. Fu, is Sun Tzu recognized by the Singapore government? I don't know. What do you mean by recognized by the Singapore government? I don't understand you on that. You mean the diploma, the postgraduate diploma? The program is actually recognized by the Ministry of Education, yes. If that's the question. Of course, it's otherwise applicable MNC. Sure, it is. You just go internet and put the Sun Tzu Art of War, you'll find that there are a lot of top CEOs who believe in Art of War. In fact, I just did one for IBM, right? On selling, on teamwork, on Art of War. All the top companies believe in it. Even Pentagon believe in it, all right, in using it. But it is depending on how creative you are. Not everybody is a strategist, is a good strategist. Right, any more, please? I would happy to answer your question. Yeah. Is Eastern strategy better than Western? I don't think you can really say like TCM and Western medicine, right? But let me handle one link question first, right? Okay, is Eastern strategy better than Western strategy? I think I can't hear you, but never I can't hear you at all. So you just have to type. I'm sorry, I don't the notebook, the ThinkPad didn't enable me to hear your voice so clearly. But one you asked a very good question. Is Eastern strategy better than Western strategy? I would say that, right, the only thing that matters is winning. It doesn't really matter Eastern or Western. There's no real differentiation, but Western management is not superior to Eastern management. Definitely Western strategy is not superior to Eastern strategy. Sun Tzu strategy is indeed far more superior than most of the strategies of the West. Now, next question from Wei J to everyone. How young is too young to study this program? How old are you? You should start young if you could. You know, I tell you one, this is a very interesting question. 28 hours, you should start. You're too late. You should start early. You should start when you're 19, 18, 19, when you're in the national service. But let me tell you one thing, all right? I have done the, okay, now let me answer the question by Wei J first, right? I've done this, you know, I find the most interesting people to teach since Art of War after the gifted program. I was at Nanyang Primary, invited a long time ago by the principal Nanyang to teach the gifted program on Sun Tzu Art of War. And you know the question they asked? Oh, far be it the older adults in terms of strategy. So 28 a bit, you should start, you should start 1918 reading Art of War right now. For one link to everyone right now. Thanks, Dr. Fu. Last question. One link, all right? How will this prepare me for the book, right? In Harvard Business Review? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, let me explain those concepts to you, properly so that my answer will be precise to the point. Now, first of all, I think the whole world, the difficulty of this world is that we are in a technology revolution. Technology is upsetting everything, right? So there's volatility. So you have got rapid changes. Uncertainty because, like, for example, this virus, coronavirus, it really created a lot of ambiguity. When will it end? When will the virus end? Right? But it will prepare you. Why? Because Sun Tzu emphasized on what? Tenji. Given opportunities, Eastern strategy is very much related to opportunity. In other words, Sun Tzu used the word flexibility like water. You know, you pour water to any cup, it adopts the shape of the cup. It becomes something that is very responsive to change. So, you know, you become a flexible mind. You don't have a fixed mind, a fixed method. You become flexible. Hi, Professor, can you give me an example? How can we apply Art of War in today with the global financial meltdown? Now, I think the COVID situation is new, right? The meltdown of global finance. Oh, you could listen to my interview on BBC. Put check tag, you put BBC, you hear that, right? Now, how do business leaders apply Art of War today? Yes, they apply. Oh, that many of them. Okay, now, for example, you can read about this Japanese guy, right? He's the investor, SoftBank. He follows Sun Tzu Art of War, SoftBank guy. Right? How did learning Art of War benefit you in your life? In my life, oh no, I just lecture on Sun Tzu. I did research on Sun Tzu, right? And I began in Sun Tzu quite late in life, 38, right? And before that, I'm a Western trainer from Raffles, and so it's quite different from the Hua Zhong and the so. But of course, Sun Tzu is very useful. Once I embrace it, I realize it's very powerful. It is very, very powerful. So I blend that. It's a blending that's very important. Now, bear in mind, there's only one thing that matters: winning. You have to win. It doesn't matter where the ideas come from. You're not going to carry any banner. In fact, in my course, I'm going to emphasize one thing to you, that you should create your own art of war using Sun Tzu's art of war as a framework. It's just like, you got to format a computer. Right? When you format a computer, having formatted, then you build on using your own art of war, your method of strategy that is most appropriate for you in your business, given your personality. Everything about you should be factored into the art of war, your art of war. So you shouldn't be studying anything just for memorization, although you start with memorizing, because art of war is so powerful. Can you find me a piece of work that's written 2,500 years ago, not say 2,500, maybe 1,000 years ago, that's still applicable today? And the best part is the Westerners that are very strongly into art of war. In fact, I got a Canadian professor who told me, look, I've written this book on time for a school of management founded on Sun Tzu's art of war. Yes, any other question, please? You've asked very interesting questions. No more? Emily Kwa, to everyone? Yes, Dr. Fu? Yes, Chong? Any question? Just shoot. I will answer you. No problem. We've got about 6 minutes more. Five to 6 minutes more. Yes, very good. Chong, you know something about San Kuo-Yen, Three Kingdom. Yes. Now let me explain this to you, right? China, there are about 2,500 Bingsu, or 2,500 books on war. And then, right? Okay, yeah, just a minute, right? Like Sejun, I will answer you another question. But what we do is we would begin and focus on Sun Tzu first, as for strategy thinking, and later on we may incorporate San Kuo-Yen and all that. Our approach is not to go to study Chinese classic per se, but applying Sun Tzu art of war as the foundation for your management in the real world. Now, good, Dr. Fu, right? Will you do other stages such as warring state, Gui Gu Zi? Now, Gui Gu Zi is much more difficult for me to teach, partly because one reason why the West finds Sun Tzu so interesting out of War 13 chapters, because it is complete. You can relate almost management activity to Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu even have got accounting concepts between art of war, and Sun Tzu got spying. Everything is contained in it. I can relate theories of Western management all found inside Sun Tzu's art of war. But Gui Gu Zi is more sophisticated. It's more diplomatic, Gui Gu Zi, right? So if you do it, then it becomes too generic. I may discuss Mao Zedong's strategy, right? Mao Zedong is more current to today, right? So other stages, the one I may discuss, we can introduce and include is Fan Li. Fan Li All right, Tao Zhu Gong, he's fantastic in terms of management, in terms of finance. Right? 3 times he gave away his wealth. 3 times he recouped the wealth, and he's one of the richest men in China historically. But we do step by step. The whole idea is to ground you solidly on Sun Tzu. Then from there you can then go further, right? Any other question? But don't forget, our study of Sun Tzu is modern study, modern management, right? The first module really is sharpening your mind, right? First, then after that, how to think original strategy, deepening part. Then we come to the mastering part, where we discuss all about modern application of Sun Tzu. You'll find this course will be very interesting. You enjoy it. Don't worry. You will not be one that is blind studying and right. For example, I would like to discuss how you apply Art of War to China, to submarine warfare, for example. And you'll be fostering your thinking approach. That's very important. Good, very good, Chong. Welcome. Any more? Since you are here, we've got 4 minutes left. They do. All Chinese are born Sun Tzu. Jack Ma, sure they do it. I'm only telling you that if you don't know Sun Tzu, don't know Sanskrit, don't go to China. You can't win. No chance. It's a very different world altogether. Well, I enjoy myself very much. I'm glad that there's Singaporeans like you who are keen to learn Art of Wat Strategy. Most importantly, you must win. You must succeed. I have all the degrees you can name. I got MBA, I got LLB, law, I got PhD, I got FCCS, yeah, barrister law. But then I found that what is really lacking for me, right, to succeed, right, is really to know about China and or to know Chinese strategic thinking. Now, one of the best things you can learn through studying this course is to think like a Chinese, and yet you can be better than because you are Western trained.